welcome to Whispers of Ink. I'm Machado de Assis, and now I will read one of my stories.
Let's start with the book Torn Page, which is part of my novels collection. Chapter 1. Louisa sat by the old sewing table, the flickering candlelight casting soft shadows on the walls. The door had just closed behind her aunt, Donna Ana Custodia, who had left with her prayers and her needlework, wrapped in a shawl and muttering warnings as she went. "Don't open the door for anyone," she had said. "Hand on the latch. You know the rule." And Louisa, as always, had answered, "Yes, Auntie." She didn't expect visitors, but still, every sound made her lift her head. The wind tapped at the window. A dog barked in the distance. She tried to focus on her stitching, her slender fingers moving quickly, the needle flashing under the candlelight. She wasn't fast, not really, but she worked with care. Louisa was 18. She wasn't stunning, but she wasn't plain either. Her face was quiet and kind, her eyes gentle, her posture graceful, even when tired. She stood about average height, slim, with a quiet dignity that came not from wealth or fashion, but from the way she held herself. She wore a dress made of thick cotton sewn by her own hands. It wasn't ugly, but it wasn't pretty either. It lacked shape, color, life. What could you expect from the clothes of an orphan, the daughter of a poor worker, raised by her aunt and forced to sew for a living? Her hair was pulled back, not with style, but with habit. Still, it suited her. There was something soft about her, something real. She paused again, glancing at the door. The silence felt heavier now. She told herself not to worry. Her aunt would be back soon. She imagined her walking fast, rosary around her neck, muttering prayers if the storm broke. Louisa bent her head again, pretending to work, pretending not to listen. If her aunt walked in right now, she would find her just like this. Calm, focused, doing her duty. And Donna Ana would smile, kiss her on the cheek, and say something kind. Something that would make Louisa feel, for a moment, that her life was not so heavy after all. Louisa loved her aunt like a mother and father both. She had raised her since she was 7 years old. Donna Ana Custodia truly loved her niece like a mother. The two of them had no one else. There were two other relatives, yes, a cousin, married to Donna Ana's sister, and his son. But they didn't visit each other. There were reasons for that. 20 minutes after Donna Ana left, Louisa heard a sound near the window shutter. It was like a soft tap, maybe the end of a cane brushing by. She shivered a little, but she wasn't scared. She stood up slowly, quietly, as if her aunt could hear her, and walked to the window. "Who is it?" she whispered. "Me." "Is she home?" "No." Louisa opened the window just a little, just enough to peek through. She reached her hand out, and he took it in his. He was a tall young man. If it weren't so dark, you could see his handsome eyes, and the way he carried himself, proud and graceful. He didn't wear fancy clothes, nothing showy. He dressed simply. "She left not long ago?" he asked. "Just now." "Will she be back soon?" She said yes. But we can't talk long today. Not today, not ever, he said sadly. What do you want, Caetano? She asked, her voice low and tired. I can't stay long, he said. My aunt doesn't like me at the window. I haven't seen you in 3 days, he sighed. I saw you yesterday. When you passed by in the afternoon, around 5. I walked by twice, once in the afternoon, once at night. Both times the window was closed. My aunt was home. Their hands met again and stayed together for a while. They held on for 3 or 4 minutes. Caetano spoke again, his voice full of pain and sadness. He complained, he groaned, he cursed his bad luck. And Luisa tried to calm him. In his eyes, no one was more unhappy than he was. Want to hear something? He said. What? I think my father suspects. And? He suspects, and he doesn't approve. Luisa turned pale. Caetano, the young man, spoke first. His voice was soft but full of emotion. Oh, it's not so bad. All I want is to fix my life. After that, whether he wants it or not doesn't matter. Luisa looked at him, concerned. But no, if your uncle doesn't approve, it looks bad. Disrespect me? Caetano asked, surprised. You won't disrespect me, Luisa corrected gently. But you'll disobey your father. Caetano shook his head. To obey in this case would be wrong of me. No, I will never obey in this. Please don't say that, Luisa begged. Just let me get my life in order, Caetano insisted. You'll see. Everything will work out. Luisa didn't answer right away. She sat quietly for a few moments, biting the corner of the handkerchief around her neck. But why do you think he suspects? She finally asked. I don't know exactly, Caetano replied. But I feel it. Yesterday he made a comment that seemed to point at us. He gave me a look, a kind of warning, and even made a strange gesture. I'm sure he won't approve of my choice. Like I need to ask his permission. Don't speak like that, Caetano, Luisa said, clearly upset. I don't know why he doesn't get along with your aunt either, Caetano continued. If they were friends, everything would be easier. But no, it's just my bad luck. Always my bad luck. He went on like that for about 10 minutes more, full of complaints and sorrow. Their conversation had already lasted a long time, and Luisa finally asked him to leave. She begged him, and he agreed. Before he left, he gave her hand a gentle squeeze and made a request she always refused. He wanted a kiss, let's just say it plainly, which sounds a little softer, or maybe even poetic. He asked for it every time, and every time she said numero. Luisa, he said after she said no again, I hope we'll be married soon. Yes, she answered, but don't make your father angry. No, he replied, I'll do everything in harmony with him. But if he says no... Please, don't talk like that, she interrupted. But tell me, he pressed on, if he says no, what should I do? Wait, she said. Easy for you to say, he muttered. Please go now, she whispered. My aunt might come in. Until soon, Luisa, he said. Adios, she replied. I'll come by tomorrow. If you can't come to the window, at least look out from inside, okay? Yes, she said softly. They shook hands again. Both sighed deeply. He turned and walked away. She closed the window shutter completely. Once the shutter was closed, Luisa went back to her sewing table and sat down again. Luisa wasn't happy, even though most girls in her situation just after meeting a boyfriend would be. She felt sad. She threw herself into her sewing, maybe hoping to forget something, or to distract her mind. But it didn't work for long. Soon, she lifted her head and stared blankly into the air. She was dreaming, yes, but not sweet or hopeful dreams. These were dark, very dark, even darker than her big sad eyes. What she kept thinking was that she had two great loves in her life, one open and accepted, her love for her aunt, and another hidden, her love for her cousin. And she didn't know if she'd ever be able to show both to the world. The idea that her uncle might suspect something probably didn't approve of her feelings for Caetana made her heart sink. It scared her. Maybe it was true. Maybe her uncle had already chosen another future for his son. In any case, the two families didn't get along. Luisa never understood why, and that alone might be enough to stop her one simple dream from ever coming true. These thoughts, sometimes unclear, sometimes terrifying, always wrapped in sadness, shook her spirit for a few minutes. But then, something changed. Youth returned to her soul. Hope came back with brighter colors. She looked ahead and believed in what could be. What was a small obstacle after all? Nothing, if two hearts truly loved each other. And was there even an obstacle? If there was, maybe it was just a test. The moment her uncle found out that his son truly loved her and that she loved him back then, he would have no choice but to accept. Maybe he'd even go to her Aunt Donna Ana, who adored her, and ask for her hand in tears. Their marriage would unite everyone. She stayed in that dream for another 10 minutes. Then she noticed how far behind her sewing had fallen, and turned her focus back to it. Donna Ana came back soon after. Luisa got up to open the door without hesitation, because her aunt always knocked in a special way, so she wouldn't scare anyone or bring unwanted visitors inside. The old woman came in looking slightly upset, but the mood passed quickly after she kissed her niece. She had just come from the seamstress shop, where she had collected the money for her work. She took off her shawl, sat down for a moment, and then got up again to prepare dinner. Luisa kept sewing for a while. Later, she stood up and set the table. The two women drank some mate together, quietly, without much talk. Silence was unusual, because Donna Ana, although not talkative, was far from being gloomy. Her words usually carried a cheerful tone. Luisa noticed the change and worried that her aunt might have seen her cousin from a distance, and not knowing who he was, had become upset. Could that be it? Luisa asked herself this, and felt a blush of shame. She gathered her courage, and asked her aunt directly. "What's wrong? Why are you so sad?" the girl asked. Donna Ana simply shrugged. "Are you angry with me?" whispered Luisa. "With you, my angel?" said Donna Ana, squeezing her hand. "No, not with you." "So it's with someone else. concluded the niece. Can I know who? No one, no one, Donna Anna replied. I always try to avoid walking past Cosma's door, and I take another street instead. But unfortunately, I escaped the father and not the son. Louisa turned pale. He didn't see me, continued Donna Anna. But I recognized him well enough. Luckily, it was already dark. A long silence followed, during which Louisa kept replaying her aunt's words in her mind. Unfortunately, Donna Anna had said. What then was the problem between her and those two relatives? Louisa wanted to ask more, but she didn't dare. The old woman didn't continue. Both remained deep in thought. It was Louisa who finally broke the silence. But why was meeting my cousin a misfortune? Why? Louisa nodded, confirming her question. Long stories, said Donna Anna. Long stories. One day I'll tell you everything. Louisa didn't press further. She stayed quiet, deeply troubled. The rest of the night felt dark to her. She pretended to feel sleepy and went to bed earlier than usual. Louisa couldn't sleep. She stayed awake for 2 long hours, her mind racing, her heart heavy with emotions she could barely name. A few tears, impatient and uninvited, slipped down her young face. Finally, she fell asleep, only to wake up early, as usual. She had made up her mind. Her plan was to confront her aunt again, but this time she was determined to get the truth no matter what it was. The best moment came after lunch, when the two women sat down to do some sewing together. At first, Donna Anna refused to talk. But Louisa kept asking, her voice gentle but firm, and in the end, her aunt gave in. Love made her speak. You don't really know your uncle, said the old woman. You've never lived with him. But I know him well. My sister, the one he took from our home only to destroy her, lived with him for 10 years of pure suffering. If I told you everything she went through, you wouldn't believe me. Just think, if her husband hadn't abandoned her, if he had cared even a little about her illness, maybe she wouldn't have died. Maybe she even chose not to take her medicine, just to end it faster. And he, that cursed man, didn't cry a single tear. He ate dinner the day she died just like any other day. The funeral came and went, and he went back to his old life like nothing had changed. Poor thing, Donna Anna whispered, wiping her eyes. When I think of her. At that, she paused, overcome with emotion. Louisa couldn't hold back her tears either. No one knows why they were born, Donna Anna said with a heavy sigh. She was my father's favorite. And yet, she became the most unhappy. Such are the fates, Louisa. Such are the fates. What I just told you, Donna Anna continued, is enough to explain why we never speak. But there's more. He has a cruel nature, bad manners, and worst of all, a high tongue. Oh, his words! That's what hurt me the most. How so? Louisa asked. Child, you're so innocent. You don't know how cruel the world can be. But it's time you learned something. That man, Donna Anna went on, her voice trembling with old anger after driving my sister to her grave, had the nerve to fall for me. And he dared to come to my house to tell me so. I was a different woman back then. Not the one I am today. I had a little mustache. I didn't say a word to him. I raised my hand and slapped him across the face. I took my revenge and ruined myself. He took the punishment in silence, but he was already thinking of revenge. I won't tell you everything he said and did against me. It's too long and painful. Just know that 5 months later, my husband threw me out of his house. I was disgraced, ruined, with no future and no honor. All of it happened because of him. My husband was a man of good faith. He loved me deeply and died not long after from heartbreak. Donna Anna stopped talking. She didn't cry or move, but her face was pale with pain. Luisa threw herself into her aunt's arms and hugged her tightly. That single act from the young woman finally broke Donna Anna's silence, and the tears began to flow. She cried for a long time, bitter, heavy tears. Luisa cried with her, holding her close and whispering words of comfort. When Donna Anna could speak again, she said, "Don't I have every reason to hate him?" Luisa didn't answer, and that silence was the strongest reply. As for the son, he never did anything to me, Donna Anna continued. But Hez, the child of my sister, and also his child. He carries the same blood and I hate it. Luisa shivered. "Auntie," she said, "I do hate him. Oh, the greatest pain of my life would be no, it won't happen. Luisa, if I ever saw you married to that man's son, I would die for sure, because I would lose the only love I have left in this world. You don't think about these things, but promise me you swear to me, under no circumstances would you ever do something like that." Luisa turned pale. She hesitated for a moment, but she gave her word. That promise was the final deadly blow to all her hopes. Neither his father, nor her mother, Donna Anna, was almost like a mother to her, would ever agree to let her be happy. Luisa didn't dare defend her cousin, didn't dare explain that he wasn't guilty of his father's actions and crimes. What good would it do, after what she had just heard? The hatred spread from the father to the son. There was now a deep and unbridgeable gap between the two families. Luisa cried for 3 days in the first, the second, and the third day alone in the rare hours she had to herself, weeping all the tears her heart could hold. By the 4th day, there were no more tears left. She tried to find comfort, the way people do when they have no hope left. She watched the only dream of her life vanish, the one bright hope she had for the future. Only then did she truly understand how deep her love for her cousin had been. It was her first love, and she now knew it would be her last. Gaetano passed by many times after that. But then, for 2 whole weeks, he did not come around. He wondered if she was sick, and asked the neighbors about her. He wanted to write her a letter, but there was no safe way to get it to her. He waited for the moments when her aunt left the house and would go knock on the door. But it was no use, the door never opened. One day, from a distance, he saw her at the window. He quickened his pace. Luisa was looking the other way and didn't see him coming. When he reached her door, he stopped and whispered, "At last." She shivered at the sound of his voice, turned around and saw her cousin. In a rush, she shut the window. So fast, in fact, that part of her sleeve got caught in the frame. Overcome with pain, Gaetano tried to push the window open again, but she had already locked it. The sleeve tore violently. He stepped back, heart burning with sorrow. Luisa ran to her bed drowning in tears. Weeks passed. Then months. Then years. Caetano was never forgotten, but the two lovers never saw each other again. 8 years later, Donna Ana died. Her niece took the help of a kind neighbor and moved in with her, working day and night. 14 months later, she fell ill with lung disease. She lived for 2 more years in a fragile, fading state. She was almost 30 when she died. They buried her with money given by kind strangers. Caetano went on living. At 35, he was married, had a child, owned a fabric shop, played cards, and had grown heavier with time. He died as a judge in a brotherhood, and with the title of commander.
Thank you for listening so far. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like our channel and click the bell to be notified whenever a new book is read. Have you heard of Machado de Assis? Machado de Assis, born in Rio de Janeiro in 1839, is considered one of the greatest writers in Brazilian literature and a master of psychological realism. He was a novelist, poet, playwright, and short story writer whose works explore the complexities of human behavior with irony, subtlety, and deep introspection. Among his most famous novels are Dom Casmurro, which questions truth and memory, and the posthumous memoirs of Brás Cubas, a satirical narrative told by a deceased man. Machado's literature often reflects the contradictions of Brazilian society, addressing issues like race, class, power, and identity in a sophisticated yet accessible style. Despite being born into poverty and facing racial prejudice, Machado de Assis rose to become the president of the Brazilian Academy of Letters and a symbol of literary excellence. His sharp wit and profound observations about society and the human soul make his works timeless and universally relevant. Today, he is recognized not only as a Brazilian icon, but also as a world-class author whose legacy continues to influence generations of writers and thinkers. Machado de Assis shows us that literature can be both elegant and critical, intimate and universal, humorous and profound. His stories remain as powerful and thought-provoking today as they were more than a century ago. Machado is a treasure of world literature, and through his voice, we discover the infinite layers of the human experience.